And this time we're gonna talk about the SU-57. So if you don't know, we had a major leak today saying that during this year, we might actually see a whole patch dedicated to 5th generation jets. If it's not this year, it will be, of course, next year, but they are in development. They are in work in progress. We already talked about the leak. We already talked about the F-22 and what that means, in terms of performance. And we're now going to talk about the SU-57. If I can, I will be doing a J20 video today, and that's probably going to wrap it up the videos for today, but tomorrow we're going to continue. I really want to exploit a little bit more on the terms of what is else there to be added, the technology, etc., while we wait for the next update, okay? So just like we did with the F-22, let's separate it a little bit, let's talk about the sensors, the capabilities, the performance of the SU-57, and what you should expect. So just like we talked about with the F-22, let's talk about stealth and RCS first. So the SU-57 indeed incorporate a lot of stuff that makes it to be more stealthy, okay? So, many little things like RAM coatings and all sorts of stuff are added to the aircraft to be more stealthy. Is it 100% stealth like you normally see with the F-22? Not quite. This is the general idea that we have. Of course, like I said with the F-22, all of these are classified, so it's really hard to really say for sure. But the major analysis that we have from sources claim that the RCS is between 0.1 and 1 meter squared, which is a very, very broad kind of range, right? So it's really hard to know how exactly stealthy the SU-57 is. We know that probably it is less stealthy than the F-22. More than that, it's hard to say, okay? So vastly lower than the SU-27 in terms of RCS on the very least, okay? On the actual sensors that it has, it uses a very similar kind of idea of the F-22, but with some other things. So the main radar, of course, will be the N036, the Bielka, which is an IESA radar, and it will have some cheek-mounted other IESA radars and a whole bunch of antennas and everything, probably to be able to, detect targets that are almost behind you, stuff like that, right? Of course, the F-22 is an older aircraft, so there are some design features that, for example, the F-35, when we do the video on the F-35, will be on the F-35, right? You have to think that the F-22 is an older aircraft than any of the other 5th generation jets, okay? But in a general sense, this is an ESA radar that has up to like 400 kilometers of range. It's a very, very advanced radar. They say up to 400 kilometers. It's very, very hard to say how much exactly what it would be detecting with these ranges and everything. The idea is to use the R-37 that we're going to talk about later. So yeah, very long range as a radar, okay? You would use an IRST, which is the Atoll IRST. They say up to 185 kilometers of detection. Normally, most sources, we have an RWR here that is using defensive and offensive ECM introduced together with it. The Himalayas, L402. Also a MAL system, ultraviolet and not IR, so a different type of MAL system over here. And yeah, of course, it would have around 9 kilometers of detection range, apparently, so very similar to other ultraviolet ones that I think we already have in the game. I have to check. Isn't one of the European aircraft using one of these MALs? I have to check, but yeah. And of course, you would also have a HMD. So again, very common for a Russian aircraft. We talked about in the F-22 that initially didn't have, but they are introducing one. We will probably see an F-22 having an HMD. I would assume so, because they are introducing that in a soonish kind of future, okay? So let's talk about performance. In the terms of performance, these are very, very interesting subjects because this aircraft apparently has more or less Mach 2 capability, okay, in high altitude. Mach 1.6 at low altitude. So it's a little bit faster maybe in the lower altitudes, but slower in the higher altitudes than F-22 probably. The climb rate is around 350 meters per second. All of these numbers, guys, they are subject to, classified, It's kind of hard, right? It normally uses the AL-41F1A, which produces around 147 kilonewtons, 1.26 thrust to weight at maximum takeoff weight, which is amazing. It really is amazing. I mean, the thrust weight on these aircraft is going to be incredible. So it will climb like almost nothing else in the game, and it will turn like almost nothing else in the game. I mean, it has basically one of the best thrust vectoring out of probably every single fifth generation. I mean, there's only the F-22 as the other one that has it as well. So yeah, it is a very interesting aircraft on the terms of flight performance. I have a feeling that in the game, in War Thunder, not talking about real life, so yeah, you can put down your pitches and pitch and forks there. But in a general sense, I have a feeling that for BVR, because of the stealth of the F-22, it might be able to do better than the SU-57 just because of the stealth. Because I think the Russian R-37 might be a very incredible missile. But in the terms of dogfights and performance, pure sheer performance, it might be that the SU-57 gets a better advantage looking at these numbers in War Thunder. Not talking about real life, talking about War Thunder. How normally it feels like with these numbers, it probably is going to be a little bit better. We have no idea. We have to wait and see. I might be completely wrong, but yeah. For weapons, of course, we have internal base as well. Normally, it's said that it has the capability of using 4 BVR missiles and 2 short-range IR missiles internally. I would assume that maybe it can carry double pylons. I have to check. So maybe it could carry 6 BVR and 2, just like the F-22. I have to check, but still. And it can carry 6 on under the wings in non-stealth missions. So, yeah, just like the F-22 technically can do that, the SU-57 can as well. So it would carry normally around 10 to 12 missiles normally, okay? Maybe 14, but yeah, something along those lines, okay? For the missiles themselves, what are these missiles? I think the main thing here will be, of course, R-77s. What variant? Well, initially probably the Dash 1, but there are improvements coming in the future, like the M variant, which will have an AESA seeker, and it will be dual pulse. You know, it has... I mean, it's complicated to say what these missiles actually are, but it's going to be a very big improvement over the original Dash 1. R-37s as well, which is a very long-range missile. It is in service right now, and it is pretty much just an evolution of the R-33 of the MiG-31, so it is basically a missile that should not be so maneuverable. Maybe, 25 Gs max, I would assume, something like that. I'm just guessing over here because it's hard to find information on these. But yeah, very, 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 very long range, right? And then for short range, the R-74 M's or M2s maybe, which would be basically the most advanced R-73 that they have, right? Yeah, I'm not gonna get too much into it. I already talked about these missiles in other videos, but it would be an evolution of the R-73, right? I would assume that they will add these missiles before we get to these aircraft anyway, so better missiles, better IR missiles and stuff. But yeah, let's wait and see, right? Typical R-77s together with R-74s, okay? For air-to-ground, of course, it can carry COBs, KH-38s, anti-radiation, anti-ship KH-35s and 58s, KH-69s, 59s, cruise missiles, stuff like that always are able to be used, okay? Targeting pods, etc., right? And of course, it has the Grisha 30, one barrel, 30 millimeter, normal gun that they normally use, okay? So, in a normal kind of idea, it would be an aircraft that has very good performance, especially on the terms of thrust weight, and it would carry not a lot of missiles maybe unless he doesn't use stealth, but not with as much stealth as the Americans, but maybe with better sensors. Apparently, according to the most sources, it's kind of hard to find information that it's really reliable on these, right? This is what they say that these things do, right? So just like with the Americans, I have to pick stuff that the Americans say or the Russians say on this case. So it's kind of difficult because there's a lot of propaganda behind both of these. You know how it is. So if you think I missed anything, I got it wrong, let me know in the comments, okay? But this is the idea, guys. a very big step compared to the SU-27s. I still believe we're not quite there yet in the terms of the Sukhois to do the jump. I still believe we need the SU-30 SM2. Still believe we need a new SU-27. SU-35s, man, these things, they need to be in the game before we get to these positions, right? That's why, even though the leak is saying that we are gonna get maybe this year, I have a feeling that 5th generation will be eventually just pushed to next year until we get everything. But it would be a very punchy update, right? Having all of these 5th generations coming in one patch. So let me know in the comments what you think about it, and I see you guys on the next one. SU-57 will be one of the best aircraft in the game. Maybe not the best, maybe the best. We don't know. Let's see how Gaijin adds this thing, okay? Amazing aircraft, so I see you guys on the next one, and bye. See you.